We live in a strange era of extremes. On one side of the screen, we see aging leaders who have all the wealth and security they could ever need, gripping the edges of podiums and refusing to step down. On the other side, we see ourselves, staring back into glowing rectangles, reacting to whatever the feed serves up next. In our packets, we carry the ability to broadcast our thoughts globally and influence thousands with a click. Technically speaking, the average commuter possesses more digital reach than most historical royalty. Yet despite holding all this digital leverage, people consistently report feeling entirely out of control of their own lives. They feel powerless against the economy and the culture. To cope with that anxiety, millions choose to follow loud, authoritarian figures who promise to fix a broken world. The chaos of modern politics is rarely about practical necessity or material greed. It is driven by a widespread crisis of human agency. To understand why strong men are rising in the 21st century, we have to look past their policy platforms and examine the human brain. Specifically, we have to look at our primal, biological addiction to control. When we try to make sense of a politician's motives, we usually default to national security or financial corruption. But those explanations miss the mechanics of what holding authority actually does to a person. Power operates less like a political strategy and more like a narcotic. Psychologists call this primal drive the will to power. When a person successfully exerts influence over their environment or other people, the brain treats it like an evolutionary victory. It floods the reward pathways with dopamine, creating an intoxicating high. For the politician who refuses to retire, public service has vanished. They are chasing a neurological high. The brain adapts to the current level of influence and demands continuous stimulation, requiring a higher dose of control just to feel normal. And you don't need a seat in parliament to feel this. Algorithmic social media platforms gamify this exact biological process for the rest of us. Going viral or participating in an online mob delivers a highly accessible microdose of that same power dynamic. Whether someone is drafting legislation for millions or destroying a rival in a comment section, the biological goal is identical. It is the craving to be the architect of someone else's reality. That explains the people at the top. But what happens to the human psyche when the environment becomes so complex that we feel stripped of our ability to navigate it? In psychology, this is measured by your locus of control. This is a framework that describes whether you believe you have influence over your life. An internal locus means you believe your actions dictate your results. An external locus means you believe outside forces dictate your life. Modern life excels at breaking down that internal locus. A constant barrage of shifting economic realities and persuasive algorithms designed to hijack your attention span leaves people feeling like passengers in their own minds. When you lose the ability to regulate your own screen time, your emotions, or your finances, you go into a state of psychological freefall. It is the terror of being unable to obey yourself. People cannot tolerate that level of baseline anxiety for long. To escape the chaos, they actively seek out a populist leader to command them, trading their personal agency for the relief of being told what to do. Authoritarianism rarely succeeds through military force alone. It thrives by waiting for exhausted, overwhelmed citizens to choose submission in exchange for the promise of stability. This brings up a glaring question. When people get desperate enough to seek a commander, why do they so often bypass polished politicians and follow deeply controversial outsiders? The answer lies in our evolutionary wiring. Early humans survived by developing a highly sensitive radar for spotting cheaters within their tribe. If someone claimed the moral high ground but secretly hoarded the group's resources, they were a threat to everyone's survival. We apply that exact same radar to modern leadership. When mayors mandate strict lockdowns for the public but are caught dining at exclusive restaurants, the psychological contract shatters. The mask they wear in public clashes with their private actions. We see this when prominent environmental leaders fly to climate summits on private jets. The hypocrisy triggers an aggressive disgust response in the voting public. If this happens enough times, society develops a condition called institutional nihilism. Institutional nihilism is the belief that nothing is true, all systems are corrupt, and everyone in authority is dishonest. In a state of institutional nihilism, the public's deepest craving isn't competence, it's congruence. They want words to match actions. That biological craving is so intense that millions of people will follow a transparently selfish outsider over an establishment leader who fakes their morality. The aging politician clinging to office and the overwhelmed voter surrendering their autonomy share a single root cause: a total collapse of self-mastery. He who cannot obey himself will be commanded. If you cannot dictate your own attention, values, and reactions, there is an entire industry of persuasive design and political machinery waiting to do it for you. The algorithms in our pockets and the populace on our screens are entirely dependent on your distraction. The modern fight to retain your freedom is not fought at a ballot box or a protest rally. It is an internal, neurological battle. Digital literacy and emotional regulation have become the ultimate acts of political defiance. Practicing self-mastery is the only way to remain out of reach for those waiting to command you.